Long ago, in a quiet American village, lived a kind farmer who worked tirelessly in his fields. As the sun rose, he walked among his golden wheat, breathing the morning air with gratitude. His heart was humble, for he believed harvests were gifts meant to be shared. The farmer bent low to touch the ripened wheat. Each stalk whispered the promise of bread and life. He smiled, not because it meant wealth, but because it meant others would not go hungry. To him, the soil gave blessings to be returned, not hoarded for selfish gain. With steady hands, he filled his basket with corn and wheat. The golden light bathed him as cows grazed nearby. Each grain reminded him of his duty. His harvest was more than food. It was hope. The farmer knew that plenty meant nothing unless it was shared. Resting beneath an old tree, the farmer looked across the fields where children laughed and played. His basket of grain lay close, a symbol of promise. He thought of their families, of empty tables that would soon be filled. His heart swelled with joy, greater than gold. With his basket balanced firmly, the farmer walked toward the village road. The cottages awaited, their chimneys silent with hunger. Yet he carried not only grain but kindness. Each step was a vow that no neighbor of his would ever go to bed hungry again. As the farmer stepped into the village, his basket heavy with grain, curious eyes followed him. Children peeked from doorways, and weary faces turned with hope. The quiet cottages seemed to stir with life, for his coming was not ordinary. It carried the promise of shared blessings. In the heart of the village, the farmer set down his basket. The golden grain glowed in the afternoon light. One by one, villagers gathered, their eyes wide with wonder. Hunger had stolen their smiles for too long, but today, hope returned in the form of simple grain. The farmer reached into his basket and placed a bundle of wheat into the trembling hands of an old woman. Her eyes filled with tears, and she whispered blessings. Around her, neighbors stood silently, touched by the kindness before them. His gift was more than food. It was dignity restored. Soon after, children rushed to him with eager hands. Kneeling down, he gave them ears of corn. Their laughter rang like music through the square, filling the air with joy. Mothers stood close, their eyes shining with relief. The farmer's harvest was not just filling bellies, it was mending hearts. When the basket was nearly empty, the farmer stood quietly. He did not seek praise, yet the villagers raised their hands in gratitude. Their thanks was simple but sincere. As the sunset bathed the cottages in golden light, the farmer knew he had shared more than food. He had shared hope. Under the farmer's guidance, the villagers returned to their fields with renewed spirit. Side by side, they planted fresh seeds, their hands steady with hope. Even children joined in, scattering kernels into the soil, their laughter blending with the songs of birds in the golden morning light. In the heart of the village, a mother baked bread in a clay oven, using the farmer's wheat. Children gathered around, wide-eyed with delight as the warm smell drifted into the air. Smoke rose gently above the cottages, and the promise of full tables filled every home with joy. By evening, the village square was alive. Wooden tables stood heavy with bread, corn, and fresh harvests. The farmer sat humbly among the people as they shared their meal. Laughter and conversation filled the air, for food tasted sweeter when eaten together, as one family united in gratitude. Children ran freely through the village paths, clutching small bundles of wheat like treasures. Their voices rang bright as bells, echoing between the cottages. Families stood in their doorways, smiling proudly, watching life return to their little community. Even the chickens clucked happily as if they too sensed the joy. As the sun began to set, the farmer climbed a hill just beyond the village. He looked out across the glowing cottages and golden fields. His heart was at peace, for he saw a people transformed, not just fed, but filled with hope, unity, and the promise of tomorrow. Dark clouds gathered above the quiet village, and the wind howled across the fields. The farmer stood at the edge of his land, holding his straw hat against the storm. His heart grew heavy, for he feared the crops that once promised plenty might soon be lost. The storm came with fury. Rain poured down, bending the wheat and flooding the soil. Villagers rushed to shelter while shutters slammed against cottages. The farmer braved the chaos, running toward his barn to protect the animals. His courage steadied others, even as the storm raged without mercy. When morning broke, the land lay scarred. Fields once golden stood broken and bare. The farmer knelt in the mud, holding a stalk of ruined wheat in his hand, his eyes filled with sorrow. Yet behind him, the cottages stood waiting, their chimneys silent, their people in need. By midday, the villagers gathered in the square, their faces shadowed with despair. Whispers of hunger passed among them, but the farmer raised his hand to speak. His calm voice carried strength. Though the storm had taken much, together they would endure. Hope, he said, was stronger than loss. As night fell, the farmer brought forth the grain he had managed to save. Around a warm fire in the square, he shared it with every family. The people drew close, their hearts lifted by unity. Though the harvest was broken, the spirit of the village remained unshaken. Spring returned to the quiet village, bringing with it a tender warmth. The first shoots of green pushed bravely through the soil, and birds sang from the trees. The farmer stood at the edge of his fields, his heart lightened with hope, for life was stirring once more. The villagers, inspired by his generosity, came together with renewed strength. Shoulder to shoulder, they planted and watered, their laughter carrying across across the land. Even the children, with small buckets in hand, worked eagerly, knowing that this time their harvest would be sown with unity and care. Weeks turned into months, and the fields grew tall and strong. Golden stalks of wheat swayed gently in the breeze, a sea of promise stretching across the land. The farmer stood humbly among his neighbors, their faces glowing with gratitude, for kindness had brought them to this moment. When the harvest was gathered, the village square filled with joy. Wooden tables were laden with bread, fruits, and corn. Families ate side by side, their hearts light and their voices bright with laughter. At the center sat the farmer, not as a leader, but as a brother among them. As the sun set over the thriving fields, the farmer stood quietly, a stalk of wheat in his hand. Behind him, the village shone with life and abundance. His smile was gentle, for he knew the truth. What is given with kindness always returns, greater than before. True kindness never goes to waste. When we share what little we have with others, it multiplies and returns in greater blessings. Just as the farmer's harvest fed his whole village, generosity and unity can turn hardship into abundance and despair into hope.